So the second question I got for you, Dave, is you already touched on it with the opening question about the name of your band. Is how did your band start with? How did you meet the members of your band? And I remember there were a couple different incarnations of this band. What was the origin of Turning Virtue, and not just the meaning behind the name like I asked in the first question, but how did it come to be? How did you choose the certain guys in your lineup you have right now? What made Turning Virtue Turning Virtue? How did it come about?
Okay, let's try to be Turning Virtue. We had the name Interphase back in the early '90s, I'd say. I mean, we've been together since we were kids. DPA said we were listening to some Maiden and some Priest and Scorps and Def Leppard, and we were down shooting some pool in my buddy's basement, buddy Swen, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta play guitar." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "I don't know how to play any instrument. I don't even know if I can, man." He was like, "Dude, you gotta play guitar, man. We gotta start a band." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, man." So I went and I ran across the street to my dad, when I'm 16, and he was like, "Okay." I was like, "Really? We can go get a guitar now?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's freaking cool, man." I thought that was really wicked cool. So my dad ended up giving me a guitar. So long story short, man, me and DPA were together since day one, and that's kind of what I was getting at. And if it wasn't for DPA encouraging me to play at that point, and my dad being so cool to say, "Hey, man, let's get in the truck and let's go grab that guitar right now,"
That's cool.
probably wouldn't be doing it. So, but Turning Virtue started just like all other bands do. You start out and you play what you can play, right? And then as you start progressing, we just thought, let's be more of a different kind of band and a progressive kind of band.
Yeah.
And that's when really Turning Virtue really came into its own. That was like in the mid '90s, and we played some pretty good shows. Released an album back in '96 called The Anomaly Room, which is kind of like it was a little raw. It was a little raw. There's nothing wrong with the album. It was raw though. It wasn't as polished as it is today, of course. And the guys in the band back then were Lou Lamont, who played drums, and Kevin Stefanski was our guitar player. And Kevin has passed away. He died of stomach cancer about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, he was a phenomenal player here in Western New York, and miss him because he was always my bud, man.
We're touching on the point you really need those people that push you and motivate you, because we all have our bad days as artists. We get depressed, we get happy, we get sad, and we need that constant, whether it's a partner, a friend, someone that's got to push you to do your best. And as a father figure, a friend, you need someone that's got to do that for you, because we're going to have our lows and highs, and we need someone to kick us in the butt and get us motivated, because they can turn to something great like your band is.
Oh, thanks, Dave. And you tend to wear a lot of hats when you're in a band. You got to do a lot of different things, and you need members in the band that can really bring you to that higher level. And if you only have one guy working or guys working against each other, it doesn't work very well. And like with DPA, sometimes he motivates me just by giving me a set of lyrics. And if I get those lyrics and I read them and I go, "Oh man, that is just unbelievable," I got to get to work on writing that song at that point. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. But so to take it just one step further, when we decided to put this band back together a handful of years ago now, it was about finding guys that were like-minded, guys that could play the music, cared about the music, and wanted to do it at a high level. And so me and DPA have been together since day one, and we were always going to be together. But then when we added Carl Sino into the band, guitar player, and his contribution is just fantastic on this album. I know you really dig it.
Yeah, he makes me want to put down a guitar, man. That guy can bring me to pieces, which is a perfect segue to a question I'm answering out of order from my game plan. I want to know, for every single one of your current bandmates in Turning Virtue, Davey, what is your favorite thing about every single one of them? And, we're just talking about that. We were talking about how they push you to make you a better person and a better artist. What are your favorite things about every single one of your band members? Because it's a cohesive unit, like we talked about.
It is. It's a cohesive unit, but we're all so diverse, right? Because you bring this group of guys together, and now you got to become a family. And like any family, man, you all kind of look at the world a little bit differently, right? So I mean, if I start from DPA, what do I love about DPA? I love his he's my bud, man. So it's hard to even say anything more than that. Like, we've been together for so long that we just love each other like brothers, right?
Yeah.
So that's enough with DPA. And then I take Spicoli, and Spicoli is our third guitar player, but he's also been my right-hand man. Without him, he's our do-everything. He engineered this whole last CD project. He's here every night with me when I'm recording. You know, he's always there for me. It doesn't matter if it's something like that, playing, or technical, Spicoli's always there. So with Spicoli, I just look at him and I say, again, I would say that he's just like an attached, just like DPA in a sense, that because I've known him since I was a little kid, there's this deeper love and attachment there. It goes past musicianship, and then when you get, now we'll take the newest members in the band, Carl and Rob Thurman. Carl just, I mean, the guy is just music, man. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have other things, but man, is he into the music, right? I mean, cares so much about every note being right. It's not about playing 1,000 notes, it's about just playing those right notes. And whenever I give him something and he adds his beauty to it, it's always perfect, man. And we added Rob after we released the album because we had Mark Zonder play on the album.
He's awesome, man. He's a freaking legend.
Yes.
And he's your boy. You love his work.
You know what? He's been my favorite drummer since actually legitimately when I took Perfect Symmetry and I dropped it in the CD player and I heard those opening strains of that album, I was like, who is this guy and why hadn't I heard of him previously? And ever since that day, I think it was, what was that, 1989, I'm guessing? Somewhere around there.
Wow, I was 2 years old. Holy crap, shows my young age.
You were very young, Dave. 2 years old. 2 years old, and I'm listening to Zonder cranking some of the best progressive beats ever, man. It was a pretty intense thing, and I have been a follower and a lover of Zonder ever since. When the opportunity came to find a drummer for this, it was just a dream of mine to say, hey, would Mark do this? And when I contacted him, and he said he would, and he said he liked the songs,
wow,
and it fit him really well. It was fantastic.
Had to be mind blowing for your idol of, probably your favorite drummer of all time. Saying that, you probably lost your shit when you heard that. You're like, my favorite drummer just said that about me. He's gonna play on my band's album. I mean, that had to blow your mind.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, there is the community's obviously bigger now. You can access people who would never given you the time of day before. And I don't mean that Mark wouldn't. Mark's just a really down-to-earth guy. But it's so nice to have that access through the internet nowadays. To be able to coalesce with like-minded musicians and guys who are just so at the top of their game. I mean, the guy is so good. I mean, I know, I'm a fanboy. Yeah, it's all right to be that. You have to be. You love these guys. You grew up listening to them. You know why they're so good because they put the time and dedication into being that good. But just to take it, just think about this. So I remember that stool right over there that's sitting off to the side there. Rob Thurman, when he came in the first time, our drummer, he came in there and he sat on that stool right there, and he had a smile on his face, and he said he listened to the album and he really liked it a lot. And we were happy to bring him on board because of his, he has such a cool attitude. He's been around the scene for a long time here in Buffalo, plays all the time. He's a professional musician, and he's a bud too. He's the kind of guy who wants to put his arm around you and say, hey, let's do something cool tonight. That's Rob Thurman.
Yeah, that stool's a piece of history, man. That was an important part of your band's history.